Welcome back everyone to another video from American Fun 351. Today we're going to take a look at the Yugoslavian Mauser model M24-47. In the collecting world, these rifles are often overlooked and ignored because I think more people have interest in the German Mausers of the era. But these rifles still have a very traveled and interesting past that I think some people might be ignorant to. So in order to fully appreciate these rifles and understand what exactly they are, we're first going to take a quick look at some of that history. The best place to start the story would be Yugoslavia, but if you look for that country on a map today, you would have a hard time finding it because it no longer exists. And interestingly, if you look for Yugoslavia on a map in 1924, when these rifles were designed, you wouldn't find it there either. That's because back then it was known as the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. It was a new kingdom forged at the end of World War I in 1918. After all the smoke had settled, they found themselves with a variety of different weapon systems and all kinds of calibers. During the war, they received arms as war aid from a number of allied nations, and they also had tons of enemy weapons they had captured and received as war reparations at the end of the war. So understandably, the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes didn't want to have to deal with this logistical nightmare every time they wanted to use their army, and so they were looking for one rifle that they could unify around, standardize with, and consolidate down into one caliber. And so in the 1920s, when all this was going on, the Mauser bolt-action rifle design was a battle-proven and effective weapon system that had already been adopted by dozens of nations around the world. Basically all of South America, half the countries in Europe, and even America with the 1903 Springfield. All these places were fielding Mauser derivatives at the time. And so understandably, the Serbs over there decided upon the new Mauser model M24 that FN was producing. And so they initially bought a batch of rifles directly from FN in Belgium, but what they really wanted to do was be able to set up domestic production. And so they also approached FN and bought the licensing, tooling, and necessary equipment to set up their own factory back home in the kingdom that they could build the rifles at. And it was around this time, too, that they changed their name finally to the Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1929 in an effort to help unify everybody and keep everyone happy. But it didn't work out so great because in the 30s, they still faced plenty of conflicts, border disputes, and internal rebellions. And in 1934, the king was assassinated in France. And so it wasn't going so great. And when the 40s rolled around, it didn't get any easier because World War II broke out, and Yugoslavia quickly became a target of the Axis powers. On April 6, 1941, Yugoslavia was invaded by the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, Hungary, and Bulgaria. And the Royal Yugoslavian Army used their M24 Mausers to fight back as best they could, but they only lasted 11 days. And they capitulated, they fell, the country fell apart, and the Axis powers were able to capture a lot of these Mausers and mail them back and use them to equip rear line troops to free up weaponry for their frontline soldiers that were fighting on other areas. And so a lot of these rifles ended up in the hands of the Axis powers, but quite a few remained in Yugoslavia and were used by freedom fighters and guerrilla groups to resist the occupation forces. And those guerrilla groups were mostly led by two different factions. One was a communist group led by a man named Josip Tito, and the other one was a royalist group led by a man named Draza Mihailovic. And both these groups, while they were also fighting the occupiers, they were also fighting each other. And so these Yugoslavian M24-47 Mausers could have been used by any one of those three factions during the war to shoot at somebody. And as the war went on and came to a close, the communist group eventually ended up winning, and Josip Tito rose to power and became the new leader of the new communist kingdom of Yugoslavia. So at the end of World War II, the communists now in power, the first thing they wanted to do was to get their army back up to strength and to standardize them again. But one of the problems they faced was that whenever Germany and the Axis powers invaded, not only did they take all the weaponry, they took a bunch of the machinery and killed a bunch of the workers who knew how to assemble the Mausers that were living down in Serbia at the time. And so one of the challenges they had was they didn't have the manpower and the tooling and the equipment to start manufacturing brand new rifles all over again. But what they did have was a lot of pieces and a lot of captured and used and abused M24 Mausers laying around. And so they decided in 1947 to start a program to overhaul all these old M24 Mausers and bring them up to a new standard that they designated the M24-47. And so that's what we have here today. So hopefully you enjoyed that little history lesson, and now we're going to go take a closer look at these rifles and show you exactly how they work. So one of the first things they did in their overhaul process was they tried to scrub all the old markings off these rifles. But if you can tell right here, Mine has the very faint remnants of Fabrique Nationale, so that means this was one of the original Mausers they purchased from Belgium. It wasn't a homegrown Yugoslavian example. And they restamped them with the model designation M24-47. And this marking back here is the factory mark. This word basically translates to produced or factory kind of, 44. And that would eventually grow to be the Zastava that we know today. So it was overhauled there. They removed the old royal crests of Yugoslavia and replaced them with the new communist crest. And they restamped all the parts and tried to make the serial numbers match. And so our serial number is stamped here on the side of the receiver. It's also on the top of our bolt. But interestingly, on the bottom of my bolt, we have the old serial number still present. So you can tell that it was force matched. They also stamped the back of the stock. And mine has a stamp on the magazine follower down here at the bottom, base plate, sorry. So one of the biggest upgrades these received during their overhaul process was a new barrel. And so the communists rebarreled these and gave them new sights that had a 200-meter battle zero, as well as added the ability to put on a front sight hood. The old M24s didn't have front sight hoods. And one other change they made to the stock was they rearranged the sling swivels. And so originally there would have been a side sling swivel right here, but they pulled those out and plugged them with wood and then mounted a bottom sling swivel that would match up with the sling swivel on this barrel band up at the front. And as far as how to operate these rifles go, I'm sure a lot of you are already very familiar with the Mauser action, but these ones do not have a last round bolt hold open, so you can freely work the bolt even though you're not loaded. These used 5-round stripper clips of 8mm Mauser. So we have a stripper clip guide here at the back of the receiver that we can feed our rounds into. We push down right there, and it also gave us a thumb cutout so you can push all the way down and not have your thumb get in the way with the receiver. And to take the bolt out, we just pull back on this little catch. Our bolt comes right out. We can put it back in. And these Mausers are slightly different from Kar 98 Mausers, and these bolts are just slightly different. I'll go grab one of those real quick and show you. So here's our bolt out of our M24-47, and here is a bolt out of a German K98 Mauser. If we try to hold these two up next to each other and line them up, you might be able to tell that the Yugoslavian one is just slightly shorter. It's about 1/8 of an inch shorter. And so these aren't interchangeable at all. So if you're ever out buying parts and don't know what you're grabbing, you might be in for a unpleasant surprise because certain parts won't fit. So this German K98 bolt will not work in a Yugoslavian M24-47 and vice versa. And as far as bayonets go, this is a Yugoslavian M1948 bayonet that would have been issued with the rifle. It has a channel cut in it, drilled through the handguard down there that will fit the cleaning rod. So this just slips over the cleaning rod like so and attaches. And if you don't have one of these, say you have a German K98 bayonet, those will also fit. They use the same bayonet lug. So same principle, it'll fit right on. Ta-da. But I happen to have a FN model 1924 export bayonet that I thought would fit, but it does not. And so if you look right here on this bayonet, the channel at the back of the hilt right here isn't as deep as it is on the other ones. And so this one won't fit. It looks like it should, and it lines up right, but it only goes so far down the bayonet lug before it can't go any farther, and you're left hanging out there. But that's just a little information in case you want to pick up a bayonet for this rifle. All right, I think we covered all the major points of this rifle, and that was plenty of talking. So now we're going to go load everything up and head out to the range. Well, we're out here this morning with our beautiful Yugoslavian M24-47 Mauser. To shoot today, we just have some cheap Turkish surplus. And we're just going to put a few rounds downrange and see how it does. Got quite a bit of kick to it. Very nice. All right, we put a small medley of sodas down there to shoot at, and we put our bayonet on for good luck, see if we can hit them. And this is the ammo we're shooting, just old junky Turkish surplus. Let's see if we can hit all 5 of those sodas I put up. Not that one. Got that one. 2 for 2. Third one's down. Oh, our Pepsi fell over. I'm going to shoot that ginger ale. Choo! That was good. All right. And one into the berm for good measure. Why not? All right. Well, we moved our gong back a little bit and scooted away, but still probably too close to be shooting at it. And I probably shouldn't shoot at it with this anyways, but what's the point of owning a gong if you're not going to shoot at it and slowly destroy it with stuff you're not supposed to? I'm just going to take a couple shots at it. And it fell off. That's great. Well, I shot my hook off. Probably worst spot I could have hit, but it's okay. I brought some extra hooks. Well, I hope you enjoyed our range trip today. We didn't fire off too many rounds, but I hope the ones that we did demonstrated to you that this rifle is very powerful and extremely capable. We hit everything we pointed at on the first try. We weren't shooting super far, but still, that's great. And I just want to give one quick note about the ammo we were shooting today. It's this Turkish surplus that's out on the market, and it's really cheap, but it's also really hot. I would not put it through anything semi-automatic or anything that you were particularly attached to, anything that had sentimental value. Grandpa's old Mauser from World War II, I don't know if I would shoot it through there, honestly. But for our Yugoslavian M24 47, it did just fine. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to go back inside and finish up with a few more thoughts. All right, we made it back from the range. All that ammo we were shooting was corrosive. Pretty much any surplus 8mm Mauser you're going to shoot is going to be corrosive. So we got to make sure we clean our bore out properly so it doesn't rust away. So we're going to take care of that. But I just want to end with a few more thoughts about these rifles. One being that they're still very affordable. I picked up this rifle with the bayonet and some ammo for under $400 about a year ago. And so when you compare that to the price of, say, a German K98 Mauser, which basically started around $1,000 now, it kind of makes no sense why these are so cheap. And so you could pick up 2.5, almost 3 of these for the price of one German Mauser. And so if you really want something cool to add to your collection, I wouldn't overlook these Yugoslavian Mausers. There's lots of history baked into them, and I think you can see that they perform great. They're good, strong, well-built, handy little rifles. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. American Fun 351 will keep taking his weapons out to the range and sharing some history with you. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you so much, and I will see you later. Don't worry, we didn't forget about the Pepsi, and we can't have any survivors.